Good morning, guys. Welcome back to the morning show. How are you,
Good morning.
Joe? How are you doing, buddy?
Good. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Hey, did you guys see the earth-shattering news? Malcolm Stewart won his first Supercross.
It was so cool. It was so cool.
You got to watch it?
It sucked to see, my wife's like, "Oh no, he's passing Roxon." And I'm like, "It's okay. If for once it's okay because if Malcolm Stewart can get a win as long as he's been racing, it would just be rad." Um Obviously Roxon dropped a chain and took him out of the race, but hated seeing that because he was doing so good in points. But man, watching Malcolm win, it was great. Listen, his dad sound like he was taking all the credit for it was funny.
Well, his dad took all the credit for James' career, so
You
yeah.
know, but I felt like Malcolm Stewart getting that win. Like we watched James dominate for a while, and it was cool. It was cool when James came in. He was a great rider. He innovated the sport with the way he rides, and but then to watch Malcolm do it for so long and get close and throw it away so many times. It was like last night. It's like, dude, please don't crash. Please don't crash. And he dialed it. I thrilled. I hope he didn't jinx himself because, he said a couple times after he won, like, this is just the beginning. Like from here, there's going to be a bunch more. It's like, dude, lightning struck. You got a Supercross win. It's something to be proud of. I mean, just qualifying for a Supercross main is a feat. Winning a race one is a feat. Um, I hope he wins a bunch more. Um, it was cool.
The a lot of things had to happen in the positive for him to win that race. And a lot of bad things happened to I saw Roxon went down once. Tomac didn't have a good night. I don't exactly know what happened to him.
Tomac injured his leg in a heat race. He got his, I think from what I saw, he got his foot kind of caught up under the foot peg, and I think it was his left leg got bent, kind of hyperextended backwards. Obviously hyperextended it the other way when he had that Achilles tendon tear. Well, this ankle got folded the other way. Um, so he just basically kind of cruised around in the main event, getting just to try to get some points. But it's like, dude, how are you jumping triples with a busted ankle? What a stud.
Yeah. The track was David Ham tells me the track was custom tailored to Malcolm.
Maybe. The one
Whatever,
place
Dave.
Hey, as long as everybody deserves a good round or a good race or a win, especially when they've been doing it that long. And this is his, and you just got to pat him on the back for it. But the other exciting news, it's been out for about a week or so because videos and photos and we've all been talking about it, is there's a new sport quad in the industry. And we're going to let Joe start off with this, and then Jeff, we're going to get your intake on what happened at the show. Joe,
All right.
what's up with this new sport quad?
where do you want me to start?
Yeah, just freaking start at the beginning.
The real quick
Front bumper.
history of it. The real quick history. I'll try to speed through it. It'll live on in many videos to come, especially if it turns out to be good. And if it turns out to be bad, I'd never heard of this thing. Um, but the guy who used to run dirt
Liberal
wheels.
media guy.
What's that? Typical media guy? Oh yeah, definitely. But the media traditionally that I've seen in power sports, and there's a lot I probably don't know. It's like usually all we do is report on things. We've gotten to the point now where Jeff and I have he kind of caught wind a while back. Me and him started talking after that Can-Am intro back in 23. We've known each other for 20 years, but kind of broed up at that event. And he kind of says, "Hey man, I hear you like to torture the manufacturers about not building sport quads." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's my favorite reason to go to press events is to torture them about why don't you build sport quads." He's like, "I want to join up." So it's kind of it was a collaborative agreement. Like we're like the Legion of Doom of sport quads in the media. We're a tag team, and That's why, think about in the dirt bike world, you don't see dirt bike publications like working together to
No.
advocate for things. Like we're at a point now where, our viewers want sport ATVs. We see so many people that want sport ATVs. We see guys like Pete Hager, who all he does is blog sport ATV stuff or vlog it, on YouTube. And he's got a big following, and they're all sport quad people. Like he had hundreds of thousands of subscribers and hadn't even touched a utility. And that tells you something. Anyway, how did it happen? Carl, who used to be in Jeff's position at Dirt Wheels, wasn't a big sport quad guy. Said KO is if you're going to see a sport quad come back, it's probably going to come from the Chinese because the Japanese don't seem interested yet.
Yeah.
Yet. And, I was like, well, what do you think? And he said, well, we tested this little KO 200 and it wasn't that bad. So I'm always Googling like European sport ATV, Asia sport ATV. I'm always trying to look at everything. And you got to wade through a lot of the crap that comes out of China because it's not all, the KO seems like they're a little more exceptional, than the rest. GPX, Moto, Pitster Pro, their stuff seems a little better. The Cove seems better. Like
CF Moto.
CF Moto is like, according to Jeff, and I take his word for it, is getting very close to the Japanese in build quality and doing it at a better price and doing it with modern designs. So let me speed this up because so people don't start leaving. Carla Dirt Wheels mentioned KO, and I started looking at like KO ATV reviews, and I was like, before I'd ever tested the 200 with our brand, I was like, what's this A300? And saw this thing on YouTube, and it's like, man, that's a water cooled motor. Man, that thing sounds like it rips. Like, wow, and obviously for a brand like them to try to go head to head with Yamaha would be absurd at this point. Not this, it's too soon. It's too early in the game. They got to kind of prove themselves a little bit. So I reached out to them and said, hey, I want to test the 200, but I really don't want to test the 200. I really want to test your 300, but let's test the 200. Mention the 300 and the 200 test, which got him excited, got him looking at like sales numbers of like, how did these Raptor 250s and these 300EXs sell? Because we told them, the Japanese say they don't care. They don't care. Nobody wants them. And they looked at the numbers and said, we think people care. Jeff then, took the ball, man. He caught the ball and ran with it and wrote a story, and Dirt Wheels kind of gathered all the stats and facts, and I just keep blowing him up with like video link. And he's done this for years, and he's looking at how it runs and looking at all the specs, and it's like, damn, that looks like a Kawasaki 300 engine. This thing it's wide, it's got a 4-valve double overhead cam fuel injected engine, like it should spank on a Raptor 250.
5-speed chain drive.
Yeah.
Doesn't it have a reverse?
Yeah.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that it can't be a race quad, but for those kids, if kids are going to ride it, that's pretty awesome.
For that level, you're absolutely right. For an entry-level racer to be able to reverse out of a situation, I think it's a good feature to have on that particular machine.
So Jeff wrote a story, gave the bike some cover space, that little A300, just to get on the cover at Dirt Wheels, even if you don't get the main image. If you're on the cover, that's a big deal. I know I had a 3-wheeler on a smaller picture on the cover of Dirt Wheels. I had that magazine. I was stoked. KO was stoked. They made the cover. They got a full spread in there. Just go, Dirt Wheels doing what Dirt Wheels does. Like, they see a machine that isn't out there, gather all the facts that they can find, kind of like, hey, this is what we know, this is what we think, this is what it could do. It blew up the website, dirtwheelsmag.com. It blew up with traffic. The traffic on the website blew up.
Social media.
What's that, Jeff?
Social media pages. I was telling you, when you asked me earlier on the phone what it was doing online, that first post I put up has got over 700 reactions. I don't know, a couple hundred comments, bunch of shares. and then the views are just off the chart. So compared to something we'd put up on a UTV or, our general stuff, yeah, it's big news. People are really tuning in to see what it is, whether they like it or not.
So after a year of like us putting, Brock Harden at KO in the corner and like taking turns, like stomping him into the turnbuckle, he was like, ATV on Demand's interested in it. Video, they're talking about it. I gave him the pitch. They saw that the numbers could be good. Jeff came in, gave Dirt Wheels historic perspective and obviously his decades of experience. And they had to submit to our will intelligently because and Brock Harden at KO has been he's pushed for this because upper management. The bikes aren't built in China, and China's getting better, and China's kind of made the decisions to what comes over to the U.S. from them. They've kind of been picking and choosing, and this is the first time that the media has gone to KO and said, look, that thing you have over there, you should have it over here. This could be your biggest seller in this country. Like, why is that thing not here? And they kind of see the picture coming more into focus. And hurdle one was to get them to bring a bike into the country that they could evaluate. And maybe more importantly, we can evaluate, the aftermarket companies can evaluate some, give an idea of changes and updates that we think are most prevalent to make it a success in the US market. And kind of that's where we're at. It's here. And, we don't know how good it's going to be yet. So I'm not trying to be like, this is the business, but it is today, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow, but today I think it's the most relevant story in sport ATVs probably since the Raptor 250 was launched. I think the 250 came out either the same year or after the YFZ 450R. So it's got to be I think it's the most relevant, best hope we've got for a new model since probably Raptor 250 or YFZR.
I agree with that because didn't the Raptor 250 come out in 2008 and the R came out in 2009? So you're really close to that. In the chat, they're asking about the tariffs, if it's going to affect the price. Probably a little, but not enough to turn people away because it's already got a great price point.
Yeah.
I think the engine package alone can sell it. As we were talking, we think that Raptor 250 componentry may fit on this machine as far as
there's a possibility. Jeff, what was John Arns saying about it? You saw him at the show.
Oh, he was all excited about it. He had never seen it before. And he was over there taking pictures of it, and I told him to get away from my exclusive story. But no, John really liked it. He was on the ground and laying and looking underneath it and everything, checking out the geometry, and he was actually pretty positive about the whole thing.
And John's credible. I mean, for those who don't know, John Arns runs ATV Illustrated. He owns a company. He used to, I think probably still does build some 250R frames. It was Arns Brothers. A lot of people called him Aaron's chassis, but
yeah,
it's Arns.
I did that for a while.
I did too, until I met him and he set me straight. So yeah, I mean, coming from a guy who has built chassis, who's worked with these bikes and tested them, he's saying he thought it was, based on a Raptor 250 chassis. I sent some pictures over to Ed Texera at Texeratech. He didn't get to see it up close, obviously. And he was saying the same thing. He thinks it's based on a Raptor 250. And everybody who sees the motor is saying that's a KLX 300 motor.
Yeah, another thing about John, he was involved with the little mini Cobra quads for a while too. So he's very familiar with youth and entry-level ATVs. For racing purposes.
That's kind of what I was thinking that is going to cause this machine to start the fire is cross country and probably some work stuff where you're going to get it out there and people are going to be starting their racing careers because of a new machine like this, and you're lighting a fire in our industry again that we haven't had for how many years? Almost 12.
Yeah. Yeah, 10, 11 years since 2014.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
if we can bring back that group of riders that build your early 450B classes and things like that, uh, with this 300, I think that we're going to start something all new again. Um, the 300X EX and the Raptor 250 are great machines for that. And getting another machine that we can put these kids on, I think is awesome. My grandkid, I have two grandchildren that are going to love this size machine. Not that my pocketbook will, but
yeah,
it's still a good price. Don't get me wrong.
yeah. On the other side of that argument, we have a great article coming out in the April issue that our contributor Rob Baumsteiger put together, and it's about 8 racers who are over 40, some over 50, some over 60, that refuse to. Well, they're still racing ATVs, and some of them very competitively at an A level, and it includes Bo Barron, who just won round one of works at 44 years old. But it talks about, well, I'll give you the subheadline is it was eight old guys who despise the phrase "with age comes a cage," and I love it. So it's funny how many people I talk to, and I'm one of those people too. I had a UTV for a while, and we lost interest in it fairly quick. I'm not bashing UTVs. That's a big part of dirt wheels right now. But it doesn't give you the freedom of riding an ATV or a sport quad. And I've talked to a lot of other guys too. And it's funny you bring John Aarons up. He had been so involved with the UTVs and stuff. I remember I met up with him at a ATV intro, and he got on it, and he came back and he goes, "I forgot how much fun these things are." And it wasn't even a sport ATV. It was a mid-level 4x4 or whatever. And yeah, no, it's I do. We can feel a little bit of a change. I think ATVs are coming back. We do see the numbers coming up in sales overall for ATVs, while sport side by sides are in a pretty hard decline right now because people just can't afford, 30, 40, $50,000 toys.
Right.
And you might have more people in a good economy that'll overreach to do it. But I mean, we could spend a whole hour talking about why currently the side by side market isn't sustainable. And the 10-second explanation I've got is, you've got a couple companies right now that want to be charging boat money for dirt toys and expect that the average person can afford it, and they can't. And even a good entry level machine like a Razor XP 1000, it's $20,000. You're a 22-year-old. You can't come up with that kind of money. Goes back to what we were discussing with Mike Walsh, and that was 1985 LT 250 cost just under 10% of the median household income. Today, median household income is 75K. That's 25%, something between 25% of an annual budget just to buy a $20,000 car. They're expensive. These are not toys for young people. The upkeep is too much. The repairs are too expensive. The monthly payments are too much. Yeah, I mean,
And
I
they're
like
getting
them.
so big they won't even fit in some toy haulers now. So you got to buy a new trailer and then kick the wife's car out of the garage for a place to park it. You know.
What's the price point on that Segway car that you want? We were supposed to talk about later in the show.
The supervillain, they don't have a price set, but they told me it's in the $30,000 range, which is actually pretty good for that car. We'll talk about that later, though. But
Well, we're
everything that
already
comes.
here. We're already here, so you might as well tell
Well,
what it means.
it's right there at the Pro R level, if not better. It is so fast, the turbo kicks in so hard, and the suspension matches the output of the engine. It was the gas turbo, 235 horse. That we got an exclusive first ride in while I was out at the AIM Expo in Las Vegas. We went out to Apex OHV area near Nellis Air Force Base and got some time in it. It's Polaris, watch out, because it's very impressive. But at that 30, even 35,000, dollar range, if it's somewhere in there, these new Razor Pro Rs with the special editions that they got, you're talking, that's all 40 to $50,000 range. So, and I know a lot of dealers right now are knocking down the prices on those just to get them out of their dealerships or taking up space.
Substantially. And substantially. But the problem
Yeah.
is the problem for Polaris is, if this car is going to be in that $30 to $35,000 range, this Segway is going to retail at their discounted price.
Yeah.
I think that's ludicrous that a car costs that much to go play in the dirt with. No, I think $1,000 for a sport quad off the showroom floor is expensive anyway. And I'm the guy that builds super expensive toys to go play in the dirt with. But I see the value in the modifications and I see the hours and the labor. The factories, I just don't know how the price jumps so fast. I mean, where have I been? Because they just seem to skyrocket into that $10,000, $12,000 range. Um, Probably some of that comes from the KTM quad when it came out because it was so expensive, and KTM's motorcycles are so expensive. How
I
can you
don't,
go bankrupt when you're overcharging people that much for
well,
your toy?
the YFZ 450R, when it first came out, I think that thing was in like the $8,500 range.
Yeah.
The dirt bike at the time was around somewhere between 1,500, I think, and $2,000 less. Me and Jeff looked this up a few weeks ago. And today, now, mind you, YZ450 dirt bike has gotten updated and overhauled. You've probably seen 2, 3 new generations of YFZ 450. I'm sorry, of YZ 450 dirt bike since the YFZ came out. Since Yamaha hasn't spent any money in R&D on the YFZ 450R, it's gotten to the point where the price between the bike and the quad have actually kind of parallel. So, I just think what we're seeing is just natural inflation. The KTM was just overpriced when it came out. It was overpriced because if you took a Suzuki and you just pulled the baffle and put the cherry bomb in it, what did you have compared to that KTM? Well, you had a better machine. The air intake was better. The suspension was really just as good. The KTM suspension was really no better. I mean, it might have had a WP sticker on it, and so it had a brand, but sticker. But the Suzuki suspension wasn't bad, and again, it was the heaviest bike in the class, durable, but it felt like it was as light as the KTM. And the Suzuki was $8,500 when the KTM was $13,500. There was no justification for that KTM price other than that it was orange and it said delivered race ready. But it was no more race ready than the LTR. And the LTR was probably a better bike. It was a better bike.
I don't know. The KTM did come with a kill switch.
Well, it came with a kill switch and Nerf bars.
Yeah, but 2 years after you own the KTM, you're having to buy a whole new bike because it's fallen apart. And the motor package they picked for them wasn't that great. Now, if they would have used some of their new modern motor stuff, I think the machine would have totally changed. Plus, have you ever seen the air filter on a KTM?
Yeah, that was an issue.
Okay, come on. That's the only air filter system worse than that is
Was
Polaris.
the Polaris.
Yeah, the
You know, stuck over an
525. I can't remember. Did all of the Outlaws have that same weird, tiny little air box, or was it just the S
I think it was.
models?
I think it was all. I don't remember about the IRS, but I know the 450 and the
525S. Yeah,
Yeah,
the MX
for
and the S had a
The
stupid number.
air box system in the IRS bike was good. It was
that's what I thought.
Raptor 700 as far as the size of the filter. And they could have easily not done some of the I don't even have words that you can say on the internet anymore for what they did to these poor 450s, the straight axle bikes. Running the exhaust through the center did nothing for them. You know, they could have ran it to the side, put that big airbox in there that they ran on the IRS bike, which when I was working with Eichner right before we parted ways, I was working on putting that airbox in the subframe and running the pipe on the outside, so that we could have a machine that didn't have a problem. And the first race on the straight axle bike, with the way they had it set up, the subframe broke. Not with the airbox in it, but just the way that the factory had it set up. So there's a lot of problems there, but that's talking about ancient history that hopefully we never see anything from Polaris again like that, because they just, in my opinion, they just build junk.
Well, and that's why, I, that's why I tell these manufacturers when I'm like, all right, pull your phone out. Let's see what your bikes are selling for used, since nobody wants to buy them. Let's see how high they've gotten on the used market. And that's why I just tell them, like, I'm just telling you, and I've said it to Honda, like, if you're not going to come back and be one of the next two to come back, and this will piss off a lot of Honda guys, but I don't care. Like, I don't care about your brand loyalty. I care about a sustainable market that people can get four-wheelers in, and we don't become this fly-by-night segment where sport quads come and go. I want them to come back, and I want them to stay back. And in order to make that happen, we need three good brands, and then we need three good players in the place. We've got Yamaha, and I've told Honda, like, if Kawasaki and Suzuki come back, don't come back. Sorry. And Honda guys don't care. I don't give a shit. Honda didn't change their bike from 2006 till it left. The price went up every year. It was a corked up, barely better handling bike than a 400EX stock. Yeah, you could make it great, but Honda never made it great. You had to make it great. I mean, you could, for a corked up 450 trail bike, I guess it was okay. But if you wanted it to be bad, you had to throw a ton of money at it. You don't have to throw as much money at a Yamaha for the average guy. Maybe to be a top guy, yeah, but the Honda, no. So it's like, Honda, if you're going to come back, come back. If you're not, and if you're going to wait till we have two others that have decent bikes, and you're just going to come take their sales and then you're going to go away again, don't come back.
Yeah, because all they're doing is hurting us. I know I love Honda and I wish Honda would get their head out of their ass. But Jeff and I were having a great conversation. I think it was yesterday. The KX 450, the quad, if they put the modern day engine in it and the modern day electrical in it, that would have been a great bike. You could have put that up and it could race against the Yamaha. I mean, granted, you'd have to put A-arms on it and shocks, but that machine handled really well. Its power plant and its electrical system was horseshit. And
Well, and this
language.
and this comes back to a problem is we only got the Gen 1 bike. Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying about put the new motor in it and do all this other stuff, and that would be great for a high level guy. But your average guy, like not not the 150, 200 people that are racing the GNC series, it's a bigger number than that, but it's not a big number. I'm just being sarcastic and jerky. But the average guy would have benefited if Kawasaki would have just put a long travel front end on the bike that was camber caster adjustable and put some long travel shocks on it. Personally, I'd rather see them have put a better front end on their frame, better A-arms and shocks with the same old motor. Because for the average guy, I mean, you couldn't really use all the horsepower it had because it had no caster and the front end was soft. So when you were braking, caster almost went negative and it became really darty. They needed to fix the front end and then put a motor in it.
Well, we can pick that apart all we want. I believe in my heart that if Kawasaki would have updated that machine would still be here today and their sales would have been good. The race team probably would have won a title. But that's neither here nor there. We're surmising what could happen. If Kawasaki brought a good bike back and Suzuki brought their LTR back, I'm okay with it. I really am.
Yeah, let me bring this back to the A300.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Since we were, no, since we
Hey, who's
where we start. last week they debuted it. I got to see it in person. You see, that's me talking in the video that's up on the ATV on demand site, and you can see it on our social media Dirt Wheels pages too. Uh, that was first place we got to see it, and I know for a fact AIM Expo is actually the largest North American power sports show there is. It's kind of like Indy from back in the days, only it's not near as big as Indy is. But the one thing I did notice, all of the other manufacturers are there, Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, they were all coming over and looking at that A300. So you can't tell me there's no interest there. And I bet it's one of the things that Joe and I talk about all the time. It's great to see them going over there, looking at that, wondering how it's going to do. That's why we really need to get behind this thing. I hope it does great, because just think of all the directions this thing could explode into with other manufacturers. Joe and I talked about Yamaha, especially if somebody decided to come out with a new 450, or who knows, I don't want to get everybody's hopes up, but maybe even a new two-stroke sport quad. Think of what that would do with other manufacturers, and Yamaha, who really would love to update the 450, but they have some two-stroke engines coming out too. We've even heard rumors of a Yamaha coming out with a 300, possibly. Think of where that could go.
Dirt bike so
in the
far.
In the dirt bike. Yeah. We hear rumors of a 300cc dirt bike, probably for the enduro crowd. I think everybody in the dirt bike world is trying to get on top of what, KTM started with the 300cc's, and now the KTM is in trouble. We see Kawasaki, we see Yamaha, everybody kind of jumping into this two-stroke space. That's an exciting thing. Whether it's, being a dirt bike and stuff, it does open the door, I think, there for at least some discussion and some badgering by the Jeff and Joe show.
Right. And you're going to see the when Cowie drops a 300, if they do, or whatever they drop, you're going to see it in a quad chassis, even if it takes, Mighty Mike Walsh to make it happen.
Well, Mike Walsh is going to be the guy to do it. Who else is going to do it? I mean, who else do we got out there that would do it?
Nobody's doing custom crazy builds like Mike Walsh right now.
Right. Not to his level anyway.
Yeah, he's got his crew. That electric quad that he did, he had Shane Hitt come out and ride it. And Shane was impressed with it. I still telling you, I want to see it on the TT track. I really do. I want to see it to line up against those four strokes and see what it can do. Shane would be a great guy because he can still ride. Put him out there in the pro class, see what he can do with those kids.
Mike ought to bring that thing up. Mike ought to bring that thing up to Ashtabula this year. And, try to pull some strings. If it's not AMA sanctioned, they could always give it an exemption.
Well, yeah, just vote on it right there in the riders meeting. Hey, can we run this? Yeah, you can. Great. There you go. It's in. If all the guys in that class agree, then nobody can complain. I've seen them set rules in different series or different times at a riders meeting, where everybody that was there was present. If somebody wasn't present, oh well, you don't get a vote.
And I don't know all their I don't know all their rules for need it, but if you have an open class, there you go.
If it doesn't say you can't, you can.
Right. If it's a 450 class, then I guess you couldn't. But if it's an open class, it's brung what you brung.
Exactly. We lived on the rule book that if it didn't say I can't, I can forever. And that's how, look at NASCAR. If you go back and listen to some of the old stories in NASCAR, it doesn't say in the book that I can't do this. And they did it. And, either there was a rule against it, or then there was a way to adapt it into the rule books saying you could. So let's just get it out on the track and see what happens. You could probably see if it does well, you'll see a class, or you'll see it in the open class dominating, and people will buy it, and you'll see it probably that same setup in different chassis, because Mike will adapt it so that everything is going to be different. You guys brought up two strokes. That Kawasaki, nobody knows what it is, but I do believe Mike Walsh will be the guy to put it in a ATV chassis. probably a Gen 3 with the Yamaha stuff. And I can't wait. I really can't. I hope they put a counterbalancer in it, and I'm looking forward to it. What do you guys think? Oh, come
Jeff.
on. Come on, Jeff.
Put me on the spot.
Well,
I
you don't want to see that Kawasaki in a quad frame?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want I just want to get everybody's hopes up on that happening, but there is a chance that it could happen. I've talked to some people or one person in particular within Kawasaki, and I know that there is I am positive there's a 300 in there. I know there is something bigger than a 250. And I think there might be 125, 250, 300, maybe even an 80 or 50, in that whole bunch for on the dirt bike side. I also know that in the early development meeting, somebody did say, should we also build a two-stroke sport quad? And I don't know if it got squashed or what, but that's the extent of that. And so Joe and I are trying to get a meeting together. Actually, somebody within Kawasaki is putting this together for us to talk to one of the heads of R&D at Kawasaki and plead our case as to why Kawasaki would just kill it if they did this. I think, and I'll say why. I think to be competitive with Yamaha, but if anybody bringing back a new 450, it's going to cost more than what the YFZ currently sells for. So you got to be better than that YFZ. And I don't know. I think that would be very difficult. I think Honda could pull it off if they brought back a 450 just because of all the people that are so pro Honda still for whatever reason.
For
The
whatever reason.
Yeah. So if
Well, you got to look at
yeah,
Honda's
Adam
history. That's
McGill.
why. You got to look at
But
Honda's history. That's why.
huh?
You have to look at
Yeah.
Honda's history. They've always built the best.
Yeah.
Well, and
They
that's
do.
and
Quality,
that's and
the
that's great.
revolution,
That's
and it just in the modern day stuff they haven't. So
Yeah. Yeah, to prove your point, the Yamaha that I race and works right now, we did some things to the suspension to make it actually handle more like a Honda. That was the target. So there you go. Yeah, Honda does build a great machine. It's just why they're so trigger shy or whatever to go, to do this. I don't know what the story is. But anyway, getting back to, the 450 would have to be great because it's going to cost more than what the YFZ currently uh, the MSRP is, which is 10.7. We heard numbers on 450s that they'll probably cost around the $13,000 range. So that would be tough. But if somebody comes back with a sport quad that has a two-stroke, and especially if it's a 300cc two-stroke, all bets are off. Who here? Okay, a new two-stroke sport quad comes out at $13,000. Yamaha 450 is still 10.7. Who's going to throw down a deposit on that Kawasaki? Me. I'll have both. But heck yeah, a new sport quad, and especially who knows, it might be a fuel injected machine, and it's most likely going to be oil injected, maybe with a carburetor. I have no idea, but
but
it's
the
something
nice
I would
the nice
definitely
thing
support.
is that just to add to that, Jeff, I think the nice thing is I think when we were talking about that MSRP of 13, we're talking about a four-stroke. You know,
Yeah,
the a two-stroke. Look at most of the brands that I think I haven't really compared in the KTM space. I know in the Yamaha space, the YZ252 stroke is the same price as the 254 stroke. It's like $2,000 less than the 450. So, maybe it could be a little less than 13. Maybe it'll be 13. I'd still pay it. I'll make that up on one motor rebuild.
how are they calculating that it's going to be 13? I
it
mean,
has to do the development costs on top of that, the government getting their part of that money, to approve things and all of the work that goes into that development. They have to bring that back in. It might come out cheaper, who knows, with everything that's going on in the world right now. Hopefully, inflation cost, materials cost will come down, and to
Well,
where it would be more competitive.
there's an
and it's
organization in California that I hope the current administration crushes.
You know,
There's so
if you want to get a ball, if you want to get a ballpark as to what it would cost, I mean, all you got to do is go back to 2009, calculate the difference in percentage from what the YFZ 450R was compared to the dirt bike of the year, and it was like $1,500 more, I believe. You know, and then take that percentage and start with the YZ 450 dirt bike price from 2025. You know, multiply it times, you know, that percentage increase, and there's your number. You'll pretty much have a ballpark.
yeah,
And it's going to be in the upper 12s to probably getting close to 13 because the bike's 10.5.
And it's if Kawasaki does it right, because they have become a better company as the years have went by, I think you could have something that would compete. You know, they're going to have
absolutely.
answers a little bit in the beginning, but you know, I think that they'll have something that can compete in that circle. You know, bring back that stock class in the nationals, because now you have two sport quads that you can race in it. Um, you got two stock machines you can ride in the lower entry level classes. You know, I mean, there's just so many positive things that you can do with the new machine. You know, I heard that Suzuki's working on some stuff behind the scenes. I just heard that. I don't know what truth there is to it, but they're working hard with Roxon to build him a better machine, even though they haven't made improvements. They're working on the electric start that adds weight to it. But if Suzuki's going to put all that money into Roxon going out there and doing well, why would they not bring back their LTR? They don't have to do anything other than upgrade the transmission a little bit. They don't have to do anything. Same bike could
I
roll
mean, I
out
think
today and compete.
the answer seems pretty obvious. I mean, why won't they put a new rear shock on their dirt bike? You know, because they don't want to invest any money into it. You know, they're hurting financially.
Selling
I
little
agree
cars
with
all over the world.
what's that?
They're selling little cars all over the world.
It,
Yeah, they are making money other places.
Yeah.
right. But they won't even fix their dirt bike. You know, that's their bread and butter. That's their legacy. You know, ATVs are part of their legacy, but they don't. You know, I wish they would come back. I don't see why they don't. I just assume they don't want to put any money into it. You don't have to do a lot. Just take your old line, fire it back up, stick your dirt. I mean, that 2016 motor would probably be better than the YFZ 450R engine that, you know, is probably like 2005 technology. It should be a better motor. So, you know, it wouldn't, they don't have to start over, but
They don't
hopefully
have to
they,
change the they don't have to change the front end either. I especially take some of the momentum from the aftermarket right now, which is developing, front end packages. I have one on my YFZ that uses the LTR spindles, which is a night and day difference on the YFZ, where I mean, even just sitting in the driveway where you full lock the bars and you go to push it on a concrete driveway, when it's stock form, it kind of drags a little bit with those Suzuki spindles on there, and you have to change the steering flag also to accept that. But it just rolls in a circle. No pushing, no scrubbing. It just turns so much better. Not that it made me any faster.
Well, how did that first race go for you in works?
uh the machine handled great. It was my first race back with Works in God, almost 18 years. I hadn't raced since my last race was 2010 Baja 500 on a utility machine, actually, sport utility. And I got some work to do on myself. My hands got a little worked up from the vibration and stuff. I got some flex bars coming from Logan to maybe help change some of that. But the big thing I got to do is just ride more, ride harder get back into that race conditioning. But the Blythe, all the racers that were there, Dave can probably even Dave Ham online. You can say, from what I heard, this was the roughest Blythe course there was. There were some pretty big whoops, a lot of chatter and stuff, and my suspension worked great. I just couldn't I lost some feeling in my hands, and it was hard to find the throttle sometimes. So, but it was great to be back though. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to try and do the entire series this year. We're doing it, and we're actually testing some new products on the YFZ with that. But by attending the works stuff, I actually put some new tires on last night. That's why I didn't watch Supercross. I was working on my sport quad. There's, more important things to do than watch TV. And I am going to be testing some new tires at the next event, along with these handlebars. We're always testing grips and everything else. There's no better place to do it than actually racing.
I agree with that. I agree with that. The uh, the overall package that you put together for that Yamaha, are you pretty satisfied with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm running the same suspension basically that Travis Damon has, and Doug has dialed that in, and then Duncan, I'm running the stock motor, but air intake mods. We're running a vortex ignition, all stuff that Lenny installed for us while we were over at Duncan, and it's plenty of power for me. I don't need any more than this machine. I need to keep riding harder and actually get to a point where at least I can take advantage of 75% of this machine's capability to be competitive. So it gives me something to work for. I love it. It's the best sport ATV I've ever owned, and I've owned most of them, so very happy with the package.
Nice, nice. Um, when do you think that the 300 will be able to be tested?
Soon.
Yes.
You're talking about the A300?
Yep.
You're talking about the Kawasaki 300?
Either
No,
one.
as soon as Mike wants,
Yeah,
as soon as
I
Mike wants
wish.
finishes it.
Yeah. Again, we have no idea if Kawasaki's going to do that, but Joe and I are going to push hard, and I think it would be great. The A300, I think we're going to have one. Well, the one that was at the show, I think, is the one that Joe and I are going to get to test here pretty soon. That one that you see in that video is and Brock goes over this. It's the one that they brought over for carb certification, EPA stuff. They are going to make some big changes on that. They want input from the media. They want input from, you know, potential buyers on what changes they want to make. It's pretty cool, and we've been giving them feedback, and they're eating it up, taking it in, want to once they offer a machine, and Brock said it could happen as soon as this summer that they might have some available. I don't see how they're going to get it out that quick, if they make the changes that we've suggested. But I know for a fact that Joe and I are going to be testing one probably here in the next month or two. You think, Joe?
I think so. Brock said that he was going to go back to the office and sometime next week start putting his head into when we can test the bike. I know he said that they want to go through it. They want to go over every bit of that bike with, wrenches and sockets and, torque wrenches, and just make sure that it's not, nothing was skipped in assembly. They're looking at it like, okay, this is a first media outing. They want to kind of prep the bike, make sure it's good, ready to go. And this first outing is going to be kept kind of small because they're looking at this. It's not a prototype, but it's a prototype to the U.S. market. What might fly over there won't fly over here. So I think in the next, I've been hoping like end of March, April, we get a test day with that bike, and you know, um, we know that the best thing for them, and really the best thing for the young guys out there who, we've been young guys. I'd still be interested in a machine that size. Small ATVs that are fun, something that doesn't overpower you, something you can ride just ride the hell out of it. That's fun. That makes you feel faster than riding a bike that's more power than you can use. So, we're going to get together at a track in an undisclosed location, and we're going to invite out a few people that are in the aftermarket space that have been, in the sport ATV market for decades to kind of come out, look at the bike, take the plastic off, take the shocks off, cycle the suspension, look it over, give them some ideas of what they think most needs to be changed. Obviously, Jeff and I are going to have some input. We're probably going to be saying a lot of the same things that, the aftermarket guys are saying. And when I say aftermarket guys, I mean chassis guys, suspension guys, motor guys. We want to at least, I don't think we're going to make it. There's never been a perfect machine. So I don't know that it's going to be perfect, but some things are going to be like, okay, this could be a good Model 2 change. The goal is to just make sure it is as close to up to the performance and durability as we'd like. And then we can come back in and tweak some things. I know I've seen some people talk about radiator placement, reservoir placement, for the cooling system. I don't love where it's at either. Maybe Chris at, DBR can build a nice gnarly bumper for the thing. And we can rock that bike for a couple of years, and then they can relocate the radiator, or maybe the aftermarket will come up with a solution. Just making sure the suspension's dialed and there's no glaring issues with the finish. And if they make a great bike, I'm sure me and Jeff are gonna put that out there. And if we feel it has shortcomings, we're gonna put that out there too. So it's in their best interest to get it right.
I agree with that. I can't wait to see it because I want to, promote it for the proper age group. We need the sport to grow, and the only way we're going to get it to grow is to offer machines in that era to get these kids back out riding instead of on their phones. My wife and I were driving the other day, and the coolest thing, we're sitting at a stoplight, and a group of 5 or 6 male, in probably ranging from 12 to 14, out riding their bicycles, not their motorized bicycles, their pedal bikes. And you could tell they were all having a great time. They were laughing, riding along, doing their thing. And you don't see that very often. We need those kids out on their sport quads, learning to ride in the desert or whatever environment they are, to help bring back our sport, whether it be in the recreational area or in the racing environment. It doesn't matter. Well, if it's in the rec area, that's going to grow larger than the race environment, because racing actually is a small speck on the ATV world, really, realistically.
I agree. And I think that's why this bike is so important, because, it's one thing I've seen from a lot of people who are commenting on it is, we need a 450. We need a 450. It's like, well, maybe not. Maybe we don't need a KO 450 yet. Like, if we had another major brand 450, that would be great. We need KO to kind of get their ducks in a row and make sure they can build a bike that can compete with Yamaha, or at least sell a 450 at a substantially lower price. But I think for a company like KO, or even a company like, we were talking about Kawasaki in a 2-stroke, this KO 300 has no competitor in this space. Maybe the Honda 250EX is going to be a more durable machine. It's easy to be durable when you have no horsepower. It's easy to be durable when you only have, 5-6 inches of suspension travel. When you can't go fast, it's not hard to be durable. If you just use decent, construction and metallurgy. So, I think this is a bike that has no competitor in the space. It's all KOs. They can own it 100% if they get it right. And it's a desirable machine. It's all there. Same thing with Kawasaki. If they released a KX 300, whatever they call it, a Takati 300, let's just call it that. If they came out with a Takati 300 2-stroke, if they came out with a 454 stroke as their first bike, and right now we're in an economic recession. So people's likelihood to switch from a 454 stroke from one brand that they've invested in for 10 years to another brand, that's a big financial commitment. That's completely restarting. That's like all my parts, all my development, all my spares, they don't fit. I'm starting from scratch. It would be harder to move people from the blue 450 to the green 450. In our opinion, I think Jeff would concur, and shoot me down if you think I'm wrong, Jeff. I think
I,
to
I
convince
agree with
people,
it.
sell that 250R or that Banshee or that LT 250 and go buy this brand new two-stroke from Kawasaki. It has no competitor in the space. They will own 100% of all the dreams of all the sport quad guys who have been in all the comments in all our videos and our social media posts going, Honda should bring back the 250R. Well, give us a green one. Take the money.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever's going to do it, let's just do it. I think KTM shot themselves in the foot by not doing it. They had a
Right.
perfect opportunity to go out there and lead the way again. As much as I struggle with saying it, you look at the motorcycle sales, especially in the enduro model, they have no competitor. That 300 kills the market. Their 500, I don't even know what they call it, the EXC
EXE.
500. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
bike.
the dual sport.
Yeah, that bike has basically no competitors. And it's not a bad.
It has beta. I would
Who?
say beta.
Who?
Beta.
Who?
Yeah, the beta that I own. I like my
Who?
beta.
Who? Okay, come on. I mean, beta is a thumbnail. I mean,
Hey, they're growing, man. I see more and more betas out on the trail. I hope they stay smaller because they don't have to abide by the same rules that a lot of these bigger manufacturers do. Where, like Honda, you got the 450L, which is nothing like the XR. I'm sorry, the 650L, which is nothing like the old XR 650. But Beta itself, like their 500 dual sport, it's basically the Enduro with, turn signals. It's still got all that performance. You can go out and you can run it on a track, you can ride it on a single track, you can, go blowing through the desert.
well,
Same
KTM
component.
does some of those same things with some of their
Yeah,
stuff too.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm just saying Beta is there. It's a great machine. A
Cool,
little
cool.
different. Little to me, the Beta is more Japanese feel with Austrian power, Austrian type power. It's actually made in Italy, Florence, Italy.
Okay.
Don't be sleeping on beta. Don't be
Switch
sleeping
brand.
on them.
Dave,
Yeah.
we can't guarantee that it's going to be a better brand, a better option in green than red as far as quality goes. We have to get it here, ride it for a little bit, and then we'll know. But I do believe that you will see an aftermarket guy like Walsh, or if not Walsh, put that Kawasaki, if it's a decent motor, in a chassis. So someone out there or multiple people out there can build it and move forward with it. Um,
Well, I think now again, I'm not trying to offend Mike Walsh, and I'm not slinging any, I'm not throwing any shade his way, but yeah, whatever Mike Walsh is going to do with it is going to be awesome. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be cool for the guy who's got $35,000 to buy it. Mike's builds are the dream, but we need manufacturers that can take those dream builds and turn them into production units, because Mike Walsh is not going to save this sport for the average guy unless he takes his company in a totally different direction and wants to get into mass production at lower prices. His bikes are for the elite who have big money, who have side-by-side money to spend on a quad.
well,
They're
you
awesome.
can't.
They're awesome.
Yeah, you can't shake a stick at it or be mad at it, because it is
Oh
what it
no.
is and it is what it costs. And when you're building a frame and adapting, aftermarket shocks to it, and then you're putting an axle in it and building an exhaust. I mean, the dollars just roll in, plus you add the labor in there. I mean, it does get astronomical, and I totally get it, because that's what I do. And I don't know where you stop. But as far as a production machine, that's going to bring the cost down. That's going to help the recreational environment, and that's going to help the recreational guy start his ATV career again. And a two-stroke would probably light a fire in this industry. A four-stroke would too, to a point. You get the kindling burning, but a two-stroke would cause a forest fire.
I'll say this, and this is to me one of the most important points. Companies move their placement in the market in downtimes by offering things that other people don't offer. Um, if if Kawasaki drops a 450, hey, if Honda drops a 450, I mean, I come off as kind of negative. I'm only negative for Honda because they pretty much tell me they don't care about our segment, and that's not, it's hard to love a brand that tells me they don't love what I'm into. It's hard for me to have loyalty to them. They come out with a 450 next year, I'm all about it. I'll bleed red again. I'll be like, yes, new Honda, sign me up, take my money, all that stuff. Suzuki, same thing. But Polaris went, and I'm not saying that an ATV would have this quite profound of an impact because they have been around. There are some used ones to buy, but Polaris went from last to first during an economic recession by offering a vehicle that nobody else had. There was nothing like it in the space. And although it was a little more expensive than Sport Quad and kind of maybe a little more expensive than most utilities at the time, it was still at a reasonable enough price that the people that weren't so affected by the recession in '08, 8 to 10, who still had money, it gave Polaris 100% market share for that space. And that was the Razor 800. Everybody wanted one. The quad guys, the dirt bike guys, the Jeep guys, everybody was into this new thing, and they were the only ones that had it. If any manufacturer drops a 450 right now, you're gonna take a chunk of Yamaha, but you're gonna split it with them, and you're in an economically bad time, and you're asking people to abandon their program and go to something new. So you're gonna lose a lot of sales that if you could just build a two-stroke, you'd get 100%. It's totally different. There's nothing like it. You're going to watch 250Rs. And, the concern about how would Kawasaki quality compare to Honda quality? I mean, I don't know. How does 2025 Kawasaki compare to 1989 Honda? I've watched a ton of these motocross vault videos on these dirt bikes from the 1989s. Well, in 1999, Honda didn't even have reservoirs on the shocks. They didn't have a power valve in the engine.
Yeah, but their hardware and their overall construction still is better than Kawasaki.
1989 Honda construction is better than 2025 Kawasaki construction.
Yep, the quality of their hardware, the quality of the way they put their engines, the way they cast things, the way they did things, the way they machine their parts is better than the Kawasaki of today. I don't think the function of the machine. I'm not saying the function of the machine, Joe.
Fair enough.
Saying the hardware that they use, the materials they use to build it, and the way they put it together was better then than it is now.
I mean, I will take your word for it. Again, like certain things back then, things have gotten better in a lot of ways. I mean, the Honda dirt bike forks sucked in 1990. They had inverts in 1980.
They were awesome.
No, the forks in 1989 and 1990 on Hondas were pure trash. They were terrible. Those bikes had head shake. They had mid-stroke harshness in the suspension. They might have known how to build them, but they had their quirks. And the 250R was the best there was, and we love it for it. I'll tell you what, any Honda guy out there, when I'm riding my new Kawasaki, let's go blow up a transmission. I'll go spend $1,000 at the dealer and get one from Kawasaki. You go spend $5,000 and get one from the aftermarket. Have fun.
They're not going to cost that much because we have new parts coming for the 250R transmissions. Just FYI. Oh, oops. I was supposed to say that.
Sweet. Let's hear about that.
So what you got? What you got? I got a TRX 250R in California. It's waiting for you. Can you drop a new transmission in it for me?
Me first.
Yes, yes. And you don't have to buy the whole thing. You can buy the pieces you need. But I didn't say anything. That didn't come out of my mouth.
Okay. Right.
Oops. I let the
when you figure out who's going to do it, let us know.
I let the cat out of the bag way too soon.
I'll drop my stuff off next week.
but it is happening. Guys, I want to thank you so much. Everybody, have you gotten your I will let you know in the chat. I will let you guys know when I know for sure that it's coming. There's a couple other models that it's going to happen with as well. If you got your Dirt Wheels subscription, if you haven't, you need to run out and get it right now. I mean, all you got to do is go online, right, Jeff? And you can get your
Yeah.
Dirt.
Look what's on
Hey,
the cover.
that is a sweet machine. I need to get that thing above it off of there, but that's okay. You know,
I agree.
Dirt Wheel subscription, and if you haven't subscribed to UTV On Demand or ATV On Demand, you need to get that done as well. Joe Tolle is a great mind in the industry. Um, that is a beautiful bike.
It
I,
is.
but I
It's
don't want
one
to.
of the nicest looking Banshees and nicest riding Banshees, and very rider friendly, easy to ride, easy to turn, as long as you can keep the front wheel on the ground. Just an incredible build.
Well, you have throttle control issues. I have no problem with that. Um,
Oh, wait. Well, Jeff, I got a
Ouch.
question. Jeff, I have a question. What kind of throttle's on that Banshee?
Thumb throttle.
Oh, you
What are you
shouldn't have
talking about?
throttle control issues then. Twist throttles are the hard ones.
Yeah.
Thumb throttle is
I
superior.
had no problem with that. I was talking about my wife. As soon as I see either one of you guys out at the track racing against me, you can talk.
you got a deal. Oh, no problem.
You'll see me when you lap me.
Yeah. Come out there and see if you can beat the 58-year-old man.
I'm going to be holding the fanny pack full of tools, watching you. Okay. I'll be there to aid you if need be. But
Great. He's gonna be out there. He's gonna be out there yelling at me every lap. I'll just be discouraged, broke down.
uh, there's a lot of new things coming. That bike is probably one of the most beautiful machines that I've ever had a chance to put a wrench on. I really like that machine. Um, there's not much that I could ever say that I would change on it, really. Uh, I didn't like the thumb throttle, but I probably wouldn't change it for that particular setup. I would prefer a twist throttle, but you're looking at the overall package, and right now that machine's sitting in a showroom style environment for people to look at. It's in New York. It's beautiful, and read the article on it if you want something built like that. I probably have 4 or 5 in the pipeline right now that are going to be similar but different colors. And they're just they're revolutionizing the Banshee in such a way that the suspension works better, the motor package is better. I mean, everything is just better on it. Jeff, you can we can talk about it another time, but ATV Talk brings you 3 shows a week. An audio show on Tuesday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You can catch us live on Instagram Wednesdays at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Jeff, if you'd like on Wednesday, we could talk about it and we can get more in detail. Joe, you're more than welcome to join us if you'd like. That'd be 6 o'clock Wednesday on Bench Prep Conversations live on Instagram. We also have the morning show, which is 8 o'clock Sunday mornings, and that's live on YouTube. So you can check us out 3 times a week. And remember, run out and get your subscriptions to everybody. Subscribe where you can. We really appreciate it. In closing, Jeff, what do you got for me?
Uh, just a lot of optimism about the sport quad industry right now, which is still incredibly small, but we're rooting for it to come back, and I see some possible change here in the next couple of years, hopefully starting this year. So very excited, very excited. One of the biggest things is it'll be huge for dirt wheels also. We know what dirt wheels' original DNA was, and despite, I mean, if you look around at all the other media outlets and stuff, nobody else other than ATV On Demand, us, Pete Hager, the guys up in Canada, the Lesters with dirt tracks. We're the only ones that are even talking about sport quads and even ATVs in general. So we believe in it. We're not getting away from it. We're trying to bring more of that stuff into the magazine, even though the market is very slim on what's out there. We can't put a YFZ on every cover or a Raptor. But we are still delving in with the vintage stuff and sport quads. It's very much a big part of dirt wheels still. So guys, don't think that, that dirt wheels is all UTVs. Look in the pages. Go pick an issue up today with this Banshee on the cover. We got some really cool stuff coming down the pipe here also, covering sport quads and ATVs.
Joe, what do you got for us, brother?
I come off as crabby and negative, and as soon as we get a couple players back in the game, I'll be sitting back, chilling, and happy. I think right now, power sports is being ran by bean counters at companies instead of the guys in the R&D departments who are true enthusiasts. I think, and that's what's dictating in the market. You know, people like Jeff, the Lesters, Pete Hager's a great example by what he's built his audience off of, which is sport quads. And, all of us, we have our finger, when manufacturers do focus groups on people of what they want to see and they don't put a sport quad option out there, then how can they expect to hear sport quad? But, we're kind of like the missing link between the manufacturers and the enthusiasts because we are enthusiasts and we do run publications. And, Jeff and I are very attentive and very in tune with the fact that, if we put something up, and I hate to tell it to the, manufacturers the truth, like when we put up something about a side by side, unless it's just incredible and it's timely, you can get a better reaction from a 20-year-old sport ATV than you can a lot of these new modern side by sides. So we see where the passionate people really are and where they're at. And I'm not saying that the side by side crowd doesn't have any passion for what they're doing, but it's very obvious that there is a volume of people out there who want to spend their money on something they can't get. So I'm optimistic that at some point, you're going to see one of these major companies go, here, we'll take your money. And we're going to keep working toward that until it happens.
Yeah, I would add to that, they are looking at it. A year ago, they were just telling there's no market for it. They're looking at it now. So there's something to be optimistic there about.
I think 2025 is going to be a great year for the ATV industry in a whole, as well as the 26 and up. So keep up the good work, guys. We really appreciate everything that you're doing for the sport. Uh, Jeff, you over at Dirt Wheels and ATV On Demand, your stories are pretty spectacular. Joe, I love watching your videos. I don't think anybody else does it better than you. So keep doing it, Joe, and I really appreciate it. Guys, always, you're welcome on ATV Talk and the morning show. Anytime, Joe, you're always here. Jeff, you're here as often as you can be, and I thank you so much. Have an amazing Sunday, and I'm sure we'll have more to talk about next week.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a great Sunday.
All right, man. We'll talk to you guys later. Oh, by the way, the Eagles are going to win. I like the Chiefs, but I think the Eagles are going to win.
I'm going to go work on my quad.
I want to see Taylor Swift cry, "Go Eagles."
All right. See you guys later.